Hey, it's Dr. K. I'm a California licensed naturopathic doctor and certified sacred medicine woman. Welcome to the Divine Woman Wellness Podcast. This is a show about whole body wellness that is going to support you in finding alignment with your body, mind, and spirit. I believe every woman should have a deeper understanding of her body and soul, and my mission on this show is to guide you through learning about your body, how you can shift your day-to-day life to support health and wellness, while connecting to yourself on a deeper level. These episodes are rooted in naturopathic medicine, vitalism, biohacking, and mysticism, and will guide you towards well-being in body, mind, and soul. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. All right, hello my loves. I'm so excited to be back today with episode number 9 of the Divine Woman Wellness Podcast. And I hope you've been enjoying all the different shows so far and the variety. I would absolutely love your feedback. If you have episodes or topic requests that you have, please make sure you DM me at divine_woman_wellness over on Instagram. And I'm always open to suggestions, so please make sure and you reach out. I'd love to connect more with you online. If you find these episodes helpful, please feel free to share them, send them to your friends, share them on social media. Remember to tag me so I can see all your wonderful faces of you who are tagging me. And today I think is going to be my very first 2-part episode. I was outlining this episode and I really wanted to make sure that I could pay attention and dive a little bit deeper into each of these nuanced topics. And so I decided to split it into 2 episodes, and we may do further episodes down the road highlighting some more of these subtopics. But today we'll settle on a little bit of an overview so you can get an idea and an understanding of what I'll be talking about and the importance it has, especially in relationship to your hormones. So now you might be wondering, Dr. K, what are you talking about? You know, I've been thinking how many toxins are in our environment. I run a lot of total toxin burden tests by Vibrant America, and I just see my patients so full of toxins, endocrine disruptors, those are hormone disruptors. And then we have to go down the rabbit hole to figure out where are they coming from. And it's beyond what's in the food, but it's also spilled over into our clothing or personal care products. And so that's a topic that we will be diving deeper on today. We'll be talking about hormone disruptors that are in our everyday lives, from anything in the kitchen to your personal care, hygiene products, as well as to your clothing and maybe even your furniture. So I decided I wanted to highlight this when I had patients who were eating all organic, who were avoiding plastics in their life, at least in the kitchen, come back with really high amounts of phthalates and BPA. And then we ended up realizing it was actually an exposure from their clothing and not from the kitchen sources, the common sources that we generally all speak about on social media and a lot of blog posts. And I think some of you have been aware of the recent highlights of the period underwear potentially having some toxins in there. So that's something that I will save specifically for the next part. We'll dive a little bit deeper on personal hygiene products and period underwear specifically and potential toxin exposure. So you've been listening to my episodes, I hope, and if not, make sure you go back and listen to the hormone episode where I talk about endocrine disruptors, and I can link that in the show notes down below for you. So if you haven't listened to it yet, that might help as a little precursor to this episode so you have a better understanding. So hormone disruptors or endocrine disruptors are compounds that are in the environment, and some occur naturally, but they disrupt our hormonal cascade as it is meant to be internally set. Now, hormone disruptors really can include a lot of different things. Like I've said, they can be absolutely naturally occurring compounds that occur in our food, maybe even in some of the plants we're using medicinally to change our endocrine system. It's a different kind of endocrine disruption. It's a welcome one usually. But then also synthetic hormones. And so we'll be focusing on the synthetic hormone disruptors, synthetic endocrine disruptors in this episode today. And it's really important because it's not just in regards to women, and maybe we'll take another step back here. And endocrine disruptors can disrupt our female hormones, can disrupt male hormones. They can modify testosterone, estrogen metabolism, and quantities thereof in both genders or sexes. So that's an important thing to take into consideration. But they can also alter the remainder of our endocrine system, including our thyroid function, our pancreatic function, really any part of the body where we utilize hormones as our primary means of communication. And that's really what hormones are, is they are the body's communication system. So, endocrine disruptors traditionally will bind to a receptor that is meant for a hormone and can upregulate or downregulate then the expression that follows within that receptor. That's one way endocrine disruptors actually will modify our hormones. They sometimes look like hormones. So, an example of this would be xenoestrogens. So, that's any compound that is from outside of the body that looks like estrogen to our bodies. So a lot of times these xenoestrogens can be highly toxic, and they can actually bind to the receptors that are meant for estrogens within our body. And a lot of times, unfortunately, these xenoestrogens or outside estrogens are much more stimulating than the estrogens we have within our bodies. So that can potentially lead to increased risk of things like cancer, especially estrogen dominant cancers, because now we're bringing in a substance that looks a lot like a hormone in high quantities and is more aggressively binding to these receptors. So that's one way endocrine disruptors function within the body, and not just specific to estrogen. That was just one of the examples I thought I would give, because that's a pretty well-known example as already. Other ways are by actually gunking up our liver, and gunking up is obviously not a medical term, but that's really what happens when we have all these toxins that we are exposed to. It actually can change our detoxification pathways through our liver, and so that's one way that it can actually change our hormones, because our hormones are actually processed and detoxified through the liver. So that's an important side note. So there's a lot more to it. And again, I would highly recommend you listen to my hormones and endocrine disruptor episode, where I dive a little bit deeper. Now, I want to focus on the top 10 hormone disrupting toxins, and we'll start with their most common sources. Commonly known one is BPA, also known as bisphenol A. It can be found in plastic containers, especially the hardened plastic containers, canned foods and receipts. Phthalates are present in personal care products, fragrances, and plastics. Parabens, cosmetics, skincare products, processed foods are common sources. Pesticides, obviously conventionally grown fruits, vegetables, non-organic products, but also maybe your neighborhood park and even your neighbor's lawn may potentially be a source of pesticides. Walking around outside barefoot could expose you to pesticides. Heavy metals, so those are contaminants of water, especially if you live here in San Diego. Our water quality is not the best. I'm not sure about water reports throughout the United States and across the world, but I do know that heavy metals are a common contaminant in groundwater as well as drinking water. Unfortunately, we live in a very toxic world, and it's frustrating. However, there are things we can do, like water filtration systems. Heavy metals can be ground contaminants. Certain fish can be higher in heavy metals, especially mercury. Usually the larger the fish, the more likely it's higher in mercury. The premise behind that being the large fish eat the smaller fish, and so we have more bioaccumulation. Cosmetic products, there are heavy metals in cosmetic products, actually some medications. Pepto-Bismol actually is pretty high in bismuth. That's one of the ways that it works, and that can be used in therapeutic dosing, and I do use it as part of some of my treatment plans, but it's important to understand that Pepto-Bismol does contain bismuth, and it can actually bioaccumulate and cause problems. So if you've been taking a lot of Pepto, might be a conversation to have. First off, why do you need the Pepto? We should address that. And then how do we get the bismuth out of your system? And again, sometimes we need to use heavy metals, again, like a barium, that's used for barium swallows with x-rays. So sometimes these exposures are necessary for life-saving causes or treatment purposes, but it's important to then get them back out of our system. We are at number 6 here, synthetic fragrances. So that's your perfumes, air fresheners, really anything scented. Personal care products have a lot of scents within them. Really, lotions, potions, cosmetics, anything that's scented. Sometimes clothing is actually scented. Number 7 is formaldehyde. That's a present primarily in household cleaning products, cosmetics, and building materials. Formaldehyde is also used sometimes on preservatives in different furniture. So it's everywhere. Number 8, flame retardants. So this is very commonly found on upholstered furniture, mattresses, electronic devices. Flame retardants are used on fabrics as well when they're stored in large warehouses, so that if there is a fire, the whole thing doesn't go up in flames, which I guess is a really good thing because we don't want to have infernos in storage warehouses. That would be kind of bad. However, it's really important to try your best to avoid them because flame retardants have some serious negative health consequences. Number 9, synthetic hormones. These are medications. I think birth control is a common one. Hormone replacement, hormone-based contraceptives, of course, there are non-hormone-based contraceptives. And those, like I mentioned earlier, those can be wanted endocrine disruptions. So we have to remember there are compounds that we can utilize to our benefit in modifying our endocrine system. And we just have to understand that the use of those compounds needs to be supervised by a medical professional. And we have to evaluate the pros and the cons, whether they outweigh the risk benefit or the benefit outweighs the risk. And then number 10, volatile organic compounds, also commonly known as VOCs. These are commonly found in paints, solvents, cleaning products, and furniture items. Really anything that smells. I'm sure everybody's walked into I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people have probably walked into a new constructed building and it has that smell. It's a very chemically smell. Those are volatile organic compounds, or if you've painted, the smell of the paint is actually you smelling those volatile organic compounds. Carpets are full of volatile organic compounds. Sometimes you might notice a carpet, if it's in the sun getting hot, it might have a smell to it. It's breaking down and releasing volatile organic compounds. Even with paints, there's low VOC or no VOC paints now that do a much better job of holding on to those VOCs. However, there may be other health consequences associated with that. And unfortunately, again, we live in a modern world. It's really difficult to fully avoid everything. So I want to highlight before we go any further, this episode is not meant to scare you, worry you, but rather it's educational, and I want it to empower you so you can make informed choices. And kind of previous podcast, the 80-20 rule, apply that to this, the 80-20 rule. It's what you do most of the time that mostly matters. And I think that is such an important point, especially living in a modern society. We do the best we can, and we live in our circumstances. And then on top of that, there are some products you could be using that actually, and supplements to help with maintaining open detoxification system, continuous binding in healthy ways, where your body is supported in excreting these toxins. And we're just mindful not to bring a ton of them in every day. So this is why I've decided to record this episode, because there are definitely some choices we would make differently if we understood what was in the products we were using. And other times there may not be a way around it because of your life circumstances, availability, or whatever the cause may be. And then we have to make the best choice for us and also mitigate these exposures potentially to the best of our abilities to improve our health outcome in the long run. Okay, so that was quite the introduction to the top 10 hormone disrupting toxins, as well as their sources. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So toxin-free clothing choices for hormone health is something that is so important. And I don't know if anybody's really talking about it. We've had a little bit more of the conversation. I think lately I've seen a few things pop up on Instagram, especially with the period underwear. having toxins. I mean, not all brands, but some brands. So maybe that's a thing, but it really is a thing when it comes to health. There are so many toxins in our clothing that we put on every single day that, I mean, some of those are easier to avoid than others, but it's something that we need to highlight. So I'm going to kind of pick a little bit on athletic wear, especially sports bras, and really anything that's that same sports bra athletic wear material. There are actually some negative potential health effects from the toxins that you may be absorbing through your skin, especially if you're exercising in them and you're absorbing it through your skin. So the skin is a two-way organ. It's not just out, it absorbs, especially as the sweat dries. And unfortunately, when your body's heating up and you're sweating, you're releasing more of those chemical compounds that may be toxic. So let's dive in a little deeper. So one of these compounds are phthalates. So some sports bras and athletic wear may contain phthalates, which are used to increase that flexibility and durability, which we all love. We love a good stretchy pants or a really nice sports bra that's super comfy, probably really creamy and soft. Those are lovely. However, unfortunately, they may contain phthalates, and I have no idea which company use phthalates and which ones do not. The only thing I can offer is, of course, making sure to choose organic cotton clothing as much as possible. But let's dive a little deeper. So, phthalates have been linked to hormone disruption and adverse health effects in a number of ways. So, I would say try to avoid it as much as possible. The second compound I wanted to talk about is formaldehyde. So certain synthetic materials used in sports bras and athletic wear, they may actually contain formaldehyde or release it during the manufacturing process based on how they're actually being manufactured. So formaldehyde can be a chemical reaction byproduct. So formaldehyde is a known carcinogen, and it can also cause skin irritation and allergies. So if you ever notice that you're wearing your athletic wear and you're getting a rash, I mean, maybe that is actually related to a small amount of formaldehyde that's being released at that point in time. Third, we have flame retardants, and I think this goes more for all clothing, not just athletic wear, but particularly athletic wear and the ones that are designed for high performance may contain flame retardants to comply with safety standards. Again, like I mentioned, we don't want to catch things on fire. That would be terrible. So flame retardants have been, or the chemicals in flame retardants have been associated with hormone disruption and other health effects, possibly even cancer. So we really want to avoid them. Now, generally they're pre-treated with flame retardants. And this is one of those things where it is so important to, when you purchase something new, please wash it immediately. I generally will launder new items 2 or 3 times just to be on the safe side, and I do launder them separately. I know that's a little bit more wasteful for the environment, and I wish I wasn't making those choices, but I do wait until I have a few new purchased items before I will actually do that. And I do love buying secondhand, so that's most often a moot point. So we've talked about flame retardants. Fourth is perfluorinated chemicals, or PFCs. PFCs are sometimes used to provide water and stain resistance in sports bras, athletic wear, or even now I've seen a lot of shirts and trousers that are labeled stain resistant. So really anything that is labeled stain resistant may contain these PFCs. And unfortunately, these chemicals are persistent in the environment, and so all of these persistent toxicants in the environment are becoming increasingly more difficult to avoid. And so because they're persistent in the environment, even if you're actively avoiding new PFCs or any other persistent like POPs, we want to, just avoid them the best we can. It's really a sad environment. Especially when things are going into the landfill and then being absorbed into the ground. And we haven't found a really good way to process these items out of the environment. And again, they're persistent, or at least these toxicants are persistent. So unfortunately, they're there to stay. To minimize exposure to these toxins in sports bra, athletic wear, and really, again, any clothing that you choose to wear, I would highly recommend choosing natural organic fabrics, such as organic cotton, bamboo, or hemp. Those are, really nice fabrics. They feel lovely. There are so many companies now that are promoting toxin-free clothing, even athletic wear. I think there's a company that I think it was wool that has wool athletic wear. I haven't personally tried it yet, but I think it's lovely that we're expanding out and finding other things to utilize, natural fibers that we can utilize for athletic wear and have the same level of comfort. And let's be real, we all care a little bit about style, so we want to be stylish, but we don't want to be stylish and toxic. So being mindful of that. Look for brands. There are definitely brands, like I said, that are prioritizing toxin-free materials, eco-friendly production processes. So it's, not just about us as humans, but also our environment. They go out of their way to minimize any chemical uses that may be deleterious to our environment. Opting for products that are certified free from harmful chemicals, such as Oeko-Tex standard, which is the standard 100 certification. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was in Marshall's. Actually, this was now a few years ago, but I bought myself a cute shirt specifically because it listed organic cotton and Oeko-Tex certification. And I was so excited because it's becoming much, much easier to find, more in a mainstream store or something that is a little bit more mainstream, rather than having to go to a specialty shop or only being able to find it online. So that's exciting. So the Oeko-Tex Standard 100 certification is spelled OEKO-TEX. I'll try to remember to spell that out in the show notes, because I know it may be a funny spelling for some. I already mentioned washing new garments before wearing them to reduce potential chemical exposure. So doing the best we can. Again, sometimes we're not able to go out and buy the organic cotton clothing because of the price range potentially or the accessibility. And so we have to, or we choose to buy something that may be a little bit more affordable, but still may have these chemicals on them. So wash them before you wear them. That would be important. And again, if it's a budget thing, I would really highly recommend go thrifting. And honestly, I don't care what your budget is. I'm a huge proponent of thrifting. We have enough stuff in circulation. We really don't need to add more. Now, again, you buy that beautiful dress, that one, random bit that's just special to you, go for it. Love it and enjoy it. But fast fashion is not just toxic for the environment. It's really toxic for us. So if we can opt for secondhand, at least we're not adding to the environment, and hopefully it's been washed plenty of times so that it has a lot of the toxicants removed from it. Now, some of the toxicants that are just part of the fabric, potentially even BPA, those are really hard to get rid of because it's part of the fabric. So unless it's disintegrated, which would not be a wearable option, we would still have those present. Now, one of my concerns that I haven't really talked about in this segment here is actually the fact that, we're doing so much good for the environment and getting really clever about recycling. So we've recycled a lot of plastic bottles into things like fleece, and so fleece sweaters or athletic wear, or really athleisure wear, and so many other fabrics that are now made from recycled plastic bottles. And I know BPA is more recently a thing that we're trying to avoid, and even with that, there's so many other bisphenol compounds that could be problematic. We don't even know yet. But now we've taken those into clothing that we sleep in, that we sweat in, and unfortunately, that in itself, I wonder how much of an exposure to bisphenol family is being increased and actually causing hormonal disruptions. So personally, I'm choosing to, as much as I love the feel of fleece, if it is a recycled fleece, I will no longer be purchasing it because I care about my endocrine system. And those are difficult choices to make because, again, we live in a very modern world and we want to have the comforts and the luxury of the modern world. But if it comes with the risk of my hormones being disrupted, I would say, thank you, I'd rather not. So again, avoiding fleece. That's recycled plastic bottle, fleece, or clothing. I'm just taking it out of our lives for my family. And then something that I'm having to part with because I absolutely love, 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 love them are my Rothy's. They are made from recycled plastic bottles, and I absolutely love the company and I want to support them at the same time. For right now, I am no longer wearing them because I just don't know. So, full disclosure, I mean, I might be totally in left field with this, but recycled plastics in clothing is definitely something I'm actively avoiding. So, I encourage you to do the same thing and choose natural fibers as much as possible in your clothing and in your home. So, this includes your bedding. Synthetic fibers are definitely a thing there. So, to wrap today's episode up, because that was a lot to mull over and definitely a lot of nuances, and we can always dive deeper. So, if you have a deeper interest in this, please let me know, and I will dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics because there's definitely room for expansion. But for today, I want to wrap it up with some practical tips on minimizing toxin exposures, some practical options for avoiding endocrine disruptors in your home include in the kitchen. Let's start there. Opting for glass containers or stainless steel containers instead of plastic, just avoiding it as much as possible. I generally keep all my glass jars. Yes, I'm one of those people. I have boxes of glass jars, just in case, But I don't need any plastic in my life, so that's fabulous. I should share with everybody. Let me know if you need some glass jars. I've got a plenty. But yes, so opting for glass, avoiding plastic as much as possible. Sometimes, unfortunately, even the lids of the really nice glass containers are plastic. If you're reheating things, I mean, I don't love using the microwave. I know for some people that is the only option. Remove the plastic lid. Do not put the plastic lid on top. Find something that is heat resistant or microwave safe. Use that. They make plenty of lids that are not plastic. Let's see, choose natural and organic personal care products and cosmetics. So I am putting together some of my favorite resources, including cosmetic resources for my Amazon list. You can find that on my website. It's actually at the other website still, drsabrinakaperskynd.com, but I will be linking that to my Divine Woman Wellness website so that we can have that expanded, and maybe someday I'll have an Amazon store. We never know. But that being said, Ilia is a great brand for most cosmetics. If you're curious about your personal care products or your cosmetics and where they rate in terms of toxicant exposure, I highly recommend you head over to ewg.org. They have a really nice platform for looking at your specific personal care products, and it's rated in such a lovely way. It gives you a numerical value and a color coding. Anything that's green, I always recommend good to go. If it's yellow or red, avoid or keep it for the special occasion. And they have lots of suggestions and options on the website, so that it's a pretty comprehensive database. I don't think I've found anything yet that I couldn't find on there, which is really good. So cross-reference. This is the time where I say maybe pause, or right after, head up to your bathroom and go through your personal care inventory and just scroll through ewg.org and enter in what you have and take a look. How toxic is your bathroom? Actually, that's a really fun challenge. I would actually really love that if let's make that a thing. How toxic is your bathroom? And let's all post the things we didn't realize were toxic in our bathroom. Go ahead and post it in your stories. Make sure to tag me at divine_woman_wellness. And then let's build some awareness and community around this. And let's support each other with what we found as replacements. So I would love that, because you know what? This is empowerment right here, where we can get together and we can all make the world a little bit better place by starting with our bathroom. Okay, so That sounds fun. Let's do that. And then prioritizing organic. So, again, this is back to the kitchen and really anywhere in our life. Let's prioritize organic as much as possible. Pesticide free foods. I know there's now the label that's glyphosate free and it's tested glyphosate free. Now, there's many other herbicides and pesticides out there, so that doesn't exclude them all. Again, this is where budget comes in. Do the best you can. Wash everything, even your organic produce. Unfortunately, stuff is in the air. So I actually come home and I wash my produce, even the organic stuff from the farmer's market. Even if it's certified organic, I don't care anymore. It all goes into my sink and I wash it. And obviously then I take good care of it and put it in the fridge or eat it. So choose organic, avoid the pesticides on foods. Avoiding processed foods is another good way to do that. I will take a little side note here. Something we didn't talk about is canned. Canned food has some BPA in there. Some of the liners in our food storage systems have BPA liners or a coating, so try to avoid those. Drinking water, make sure you have a filter. The Brita filter is okay. It's not the best. It does get a little bit out. There are much more efficient filters. There's whole house filtration systems. There's reverse osmosis. Personally, my favorite is a Berkey filter, and make your own choices. I will do an episode on water and water filtration in the near future. So if you're curious about which filter to choose for you, stay tuned, keep listening, and I'll get to that episode in the near future because I think it's important to make sure we have clean drinking water. Plastic bottles is something that comes up when it comes to drinking water. I know a lot of people are opting for really high quality drinking water. Unfortunately, that comes in plastic bottles. If you have a subscription, it's the big 5-gallon jug. I think that's overall less plastic, BPA, whatever bisphenol product exposure than continuously buying those smaller plastic bottles. Get glass as much as you can. There are lovely brands that come in glass. There's so much variety now. So do the best you can. Have a reusable water bottle. I love using a stainless steel water bottle. I also have a glass one. I'm so nervous about dropping that though, with having kids. So use what works for you. Avoid the plastics. Avoid synthetic fragrances. Opt for more natural alternatives. So opting for natural essential oils. There's a whole synthetic essential oil thing that we could dive into here. But if you do choose to use fragrances, use natural fragrances. And if I am using personal care products that have fragrances in, if it says natural fragrances, I still won't purchase it because that is such a catch-all term bucket at this point in time. I want to know specifically what was added. And so if it says organic lavender essential oil, that would be a go for me. If it says natural lavender flavor, I will say no thank you, just to give an example. Opting for non-toxic cleaning products and building materials. So most of us are probably not building a home right now, but if you are or choosing to remodel, there are a lot of really nice natural materials, things that have a similar rating where it's free of toxins and toxicants, or at least low on the toxicant scale. Choosing for those. Cleaning products, I'm going to do an episode specifically on toxins in the kitchen. I actually have an entire course on my platform that's all about cleaning out your pantry essentially, and it's getting toxins out of your kitchen, as well as foods that are just not great for you. So if you wanted to join that, I'll drop the link below into the show notes. Knowledge is power. And don't get overwhelmed. Like I said, 80-20 rule, work your way into it. If you notice you have some things in your home that are, maybe not the best for your endocrine system, I mean, if you feel like it, throw it in the chuck bucket and get it out of your house. If it's something that you may have just bought and it was a huge investment and, you want to use it up, Just the next one. Get a better one, okay? For non-toxic, okay, we've mentioned non-toxic cleaning products, and so Next episode, I'll leave this cliffhanger here. We're going to talk about period hygiene products and how they may actually be full of toxicants. And we'll talk about some of the alternatives. And I've already alluded to some of those, the period underwear. Again, nothing is perfect, but we can do the best we can. And with knowledge comes empowerment, and then we can make empowered choices. And I think that is the most important thing we can do. And for some of us, options that maybe are not 100% toxicant free may be the choice we want to make because that is right for us. But I am so excited for next episode and talking a little bit more about all these period products, all the things that have been coming up in the media lately, and just highlighting and being able to guide you, because let me tell you, from personal experience, as I've gone through revamping my period hygiene products, I have personally noticed the effects it has made, not necessarily in my hormones circulating, maybe it has, but actually in the way my period feels. And this is coming from somebody who used to have terrible cramps, and that was related to many, many different things. But specifically, even after my cramps got more manageable and kind of seemed like, okay, that's a normal level of cramping, once I got the toxins out of my period hygiene stuff, my God, you can just have a period with no cramps. It will just show up and be there and be lovely. That's a thing. It's real. So I wish that for all of you, but I will save that for the next episode because I am noticing this one is quite lengthy. So in conclusion, there are a lot of hormone disrupting toxicants in our everyday environment that we may not have been aware of. So make sure you do a quick run through the house, and as you're purchasing new items, be mindful of what may be containing toxicants. Like I said, ewg.org is a great place to start, especially as it pertains to personal care products. Just look them up. If it's green, it's a go. If it's not green, leave it on the shelf, just leave it on the shelf. In regards to toxicants in the kitchen, choose things that are inert materials such as glass, stainless steel, cast iron cookware, right? We want to make sure and have everything out that has a coating. It's full of toxicants. So I know you can do this. And if you feel overwhelmed by all this information and you want to have a call, I would say, make sure you book a one-on-one with me, and maybe just a 15-minute introductory call where we can just chat and see if I can point you to the right direction, either to one of the offerings that I already have that are covering some of the topics you're concerned about, or if actually you want to dive a little deeper and you've noticed, oh my gosh, I've had all these hormonal issues and I have all these toxicants in my home and I don't know where to start, or I have all these things going on and I don't know where to start. Please book a 15-minute call. We can discuss what's right for you and how we could maybe work together. And, soon let's do a detox together, because again, we live in a world where toxicants are so prominent that it really becomes difficult to avoid. So I do encourage doing quarterly cleanses, just a quick detox. It doesn't have to be elaborate or long. It's all about maintenance. It's just like when we clean our home or our space. We're not going to do that just once a year, I hope. We're going to do that on a regular basis. And when we tidy up at the end of every day, when we, do our chores every week, every month, whatever your pattern may be, then it does not build up. And same thing with toxicants in our body. If we're doing regular maintenance, we have our emunctories open, our organs of detoxification, then your body will not have so many negative consequences and adverse effects from the toxicants that are in our environment. So I hope you take this message with a lot of encouragement and a lot of empowerment and are able to start making some small changes, and small changes really do add up. So remember, 80-20 rule, we are doing the best we can, and what we do most of the time is what mostly matters. All right, for today, I'm out. Much love, and we'll talk next week.